Hi everyone, welcome to this series C++ programming. So today we're going to look into the differences between using parentheses and braces when creating an object in C++. For the overview, we go over 6 points here. The first point is the normal case of using parentheses and braces in object instantiation. Point number 2 to 4 are the benefits of using the braces or parentheses, which are allow non-static member initializer with braces, avoid the narrowing conversion by using the braces, and number 4, avoid wasting paths in constructor calls using the braces. For number 5 and 6 are the warning that C++ programmer should be aware when the calling when using the constructed calls in the classes has initializer list. And number 6, we're going to look into the differences between parentheses and braces in a standard library. Start with case number 1, object instantiation with parentheses and braces. There's no surprise when we use parentheses or braces. If you see on the left side, we instantiate the integer x with 5, and also using the parentheses, and also instantiate y integer using the equal assignments. So they're both the same. They will get the x value of 5 and y value of 5. If you also see on the right side, you instantiate the z of type integer with the value 5 by using the braces, and also instantiate w of type integer using the equal assignment and also braces. Both cases, all x, y, w, and c's, they all get the value of 5. So to summarize, we can use parentheses or braces here in this case, and they got the same result. Or we can use them with equal assignments. But for the modern C++, we try to avoid using the equal assignments because that means the copy. So we can use just parentheses and braces here. So yes, they're equal. So now we can look into the code. So this is the example code of showing the differences between parentheses and braces. So I define several classes here, uh, name, position, orientation. They just velocity. They're just showing the using the difference between the use cases. I'm gonna explain each of them later, but now I'm gonna focus on the main method. So in the main method here, I have I have defined several if and else. So for each cases here that we have. So let's start with the first one, the object instantiation with parentheses and braces. If I change the step here to 0, it's gonna means I can execute only this block, so which is object instantiation. As I explained in the slides, I have x, y, w, and c's values of integers here using different types of instantiations. For x, I use the parentheses. For c, I use the braces. And for y and w, I use the copy assignment with each of them. So we're going to see the difference between each of them by printing the value um, of each of them. So let's start with this cout with the copilot. It's easier to show the value by auto completion. So it's a good idea to use the copilot with coding. So I have X here, Y here, C here, and W here. So it shows the value. Set this one, and in the terminal, I already executed before. So with this source code, yes, wait a bit. Here we execute the step 0, which is blocks. So then I'm gonna execute the, yeah. So we see that X, Y, C, and W, they all have value 5. So as expected. So let's move on to the next part. So now go to the point number 2. Allow non-static member initializer with braces, but not parentheses. So let's see what I mean. In this example class position, I initialize 3 non-static variables, X, Y, and Z in the private scope. So you can see I initialize 3 different types, using the first one, the braces, second one, the copy assignment, and the third one, parentheses. So then I call on the right side, I call this object by, the constructor. For the constructor, I define the, default constructor and the constructor with arguments. So we have 3 arguments here, which initialize the data members. So the first object, P1, pass the argument 1, 2, and 3 to position object, and the second one is a default constructor. So let's see the behavior of assigning different variables using the braces and parentheses in the code. As you can see here is in this example code of the position class. So we have the constructor, default constructor, and the constructor with arguments X, Y, and Z. And then the static members X, Y, and Z here. So for X, I use braces. For Y, copy assignment. And for C, I'm gonna change this one to use parentheses here. And then save it. And I sort out for the second case, I call the constructor in P1 and P2 object. So step is number 1. I change this one to execute. Save it and clear terminal. Okay, I compile source code. So as you can see here in the output, so we have error here. Expected parameter declarator, what that mean? Yeah, the problem is using the parentheses cannot allow the initializer here. But yeah, just focus on these two. The rest is like the corresponding error, but the main error is here. So to summarize, using the parentheses is not allowed in assigning the default value to the data member. But the braces and copy assignment, equal assignment, sorry, they are eligible for like initializing the variables. So yeah, the good practice is to use the braces for initialize. Point number 3, avoid narrowing conversion by using braces. So you might ask, what is a narrowing conversion? So the narrowing conversion is, the conversion that convert from one source type to the destination type, but the destination type cannot contain all the values in the source type. In this example, you see, for the source type, they are double type or float type. In this case, it's double. So the destination type is integer. As you can see, that if you have the knowledge of the size, the double type is the size is larger than the integer type. So as you can see in the comment, the bad practice is to just use the copy assignment from double to integer conversion. This is the implicit conversion from double into integer. Why is bad practice? Because the narrowing conversion occur without intention. Similarly, for the second case, using the parentheses, it's also the implicit conversion from double to integer. But the good practice is that using the braces, to do the conversion. Why is good? The scene is example code. So in this example code, we're going to focus on this section, the step number 2. Going to change this one to step number 2. And we have 3 different variables here, sum 1, sum 2, and sum 3. So for sum 1, I use the braces. For sum 2, I use copy assignment. And for sum 3, I use the parentheses. So I can explain, you can see here why using the braces is good, and you're gonna practice using that. So behind it here, because here's the compilation errors of using the braces. So what does it mean? If I uncomment this, I comment this one and compile again, oh, there's no errors here. But that means implicit conversion from double to integer occurred, right? That means using the braces prevent, programmer to use the narrowing conversion, which is not good in not good practice. So it's good to have the braces to prevent us. And it implies that the programmer needs to, declare explicitly if the conversion occurred. By using the static cast here, that means we can intentionally, convert from one type to another. For example, for sum 1, I used, static cast, to integer, of 1, 2, and 3 here. And with Copilot, it helps me get explicit cast and just prevent, errors. Yeah, it's good, right? Using braces help. Point number 4, avoid waxing paths in constructor calls with braces. So what is waxing paths? So when you call the constructor, in this case, we have the class orientation and we have different constructors. Default constructor, as you're familiar with, the constructor with 1 argument and the constructor with 3 arguments here. In the constructor call, as you see here, so we have, different constructor call, different way to do that. So object O1 using the, just 1 argument. Object number 2 is the default case. Number 3, using the braces. By using the braces, it does mean you explicitly declare that this object you use the default constructor. This is the new modern way in C++. But for O2, we use the old way to define the object. What is number 4? Yeah, you're familiar with it, using the parentheses with 3 arguments. Yeah. For number 5, instead of parentheses, we use braces. It does mean that we, pass the argument. We pass 3 arguments to this object. This is exactly the same as using the parentheses. But we can just use parentheses without anything inside that for the O6 object. We give us an error, and it's called a waxing path because it's kind of confused, right? Why we can use braces, we cannot use parentheses. The mixing pass confuse you with, define this is the object, define, just confuse you with the function, the declaration, it's kind of like the function, right? The function declaration, not object creation. So to summarize, using, when we declare an object, it's good practice to use the braces here because it's can use with multiple arguments and use with the default arguments. So let's see how this one works in the real code. So in this code section, we have class orientation with different, different constructor as seen in the slides, And yeah, I'm gonna go to execution section. Is step number 5. Sorry, number 3. So I can change to this 3. Yeah, and gonna execute with every case here. Save it and apply. You can see we have warning here, and it's one waxing pass. No surprise, right? Because say, hey, this one is waxing pass. The compiler, warn us, like, hey, are you gonna like declare an object or function? It's fused, right? Not using it, and again, here's no warning occur, so it's fine, right? Case number 5, constructor calls when the class has the initializer list. So initializer list is in the modern C++, you know, as the name suggests, is the initializer list for like the purpose of it is to initialize variables. In this example class, we have the class velocity. We have 3 different constructor as usual. We have default constructor and the constructor with multiple arguments, and the final one is the constructor with initializer list. So this list uh, contain the object type float. But for the constructor call here, you have 4 different cases. First one is usual using the parentheses. Second one using the braces with multiple of them with multiple arguments. Third one is empty braces. You might guess, hey, this is like the previous case, is the default constructor, right? But for number 4, you can see this constructor with only one argument. There's nothing here, right? So it might fall in initializer list. Hey, yeah. So this is like you need a programmer needs to be aware, when using the braces. The braces has good benefits as the previous points I outlined here. But for this specific case, when we have the initializer list, the behavior of object creator be like a bit different or changed a little bit. You can see in the real code, what does it look like? In this case, as in the slide, I have the velocity class with different constructor, default, multiple arguments, and initializer list. We're gonna focus on this. And inside each constructor, I print out, whether it's called or not. And also print out, the values of these variables in their private data members. So as you can see in the private scope, I set the default value of each value of each variables here is zeros. And as you can see in the initializer list, I initialize the pointer and increment the pointer to assign the value, yeah, assign the value. And we have the, the function show velocity here to print out. Yeah, it's just the example class, nothing more about it. So in the main, in the main function, I can show the section 4 here. Section number 4 here showing it. And this is example. Let's see what is print out. Hide, and execute. As you can see, object O1, sorry, the object V1 use the conventional parenthesis, right? Use the parenthesis as is printed out like this. Object V2 use the braces here, and the case is different. Yeah. In the previous point, I said that the braces will behave exactly the same as the parentheses, right? It is multiple argument here. We call the multiple argument constructor, but in this output, here is report like initializer this constructor. So the compiler, when it sees the initializer list in the constructor, it won't match other cases. This gives the highest priority to initializer list. So that's why it called the constructor with the initializer list. As you see, this should be aware, and the programmer should keep in mind that when it has the initializer list, what it's gonna be, behave is like it's gonna call this one no matter what. Yeah, and with the empty braces, it's just default constructor, as you can guess. And just only one value in braces. What does it mean? Is we call the initializer list. Yeah, as this is the only match here. And programmer should be aware also that the correct value assignment is only the first one. V1 and VZ is not initialized and it's give like the random value assignment. This is incorrect. So to summarize, keep in mind that when you have the initializer list in the constructor, be aware of the different behavior. Also try to avoid this one. Point number 6, the last one, gonna focus on differences of parentheses and braces in standard library. So I add this section because I want you to aware for the documentation out there in the website. For example, in standard library, you're gonna use this a lot. So you need to know, when you initialize the object with like this library or other libraries in general, you need to read the documentation and understand how to use it. In this case, the differences between parentheses and the braces, they're completely different. As you can see in the vector V1, we have the return of the vector type is contained integer, by using the parentheses as initialization, we have like the first argument is the number of arguments in the vector, it's 10. And the second argument is the default value for each element. So now we have 10 elements with value 20. Interesting, right? For variable v2, so we use braces here. This is not initializing the 10 elements. We have two different elements here. And the first is 10, the second is 20, right? So let's get different cases. And the vector v3, this empty, empty constructor, as usual, is the default constructor. So on the bottom part, I snap take a snapshot from the website of like CPP conference, CPP reference, the standard library. The first one is for since C++11, you have initializer list here. With initializer list, it's gonna fall into the V2 cases. And the last one, we have the different constructor. Using the parentheses, the first argument, we have the count, the number of elements. And the second element is the values of each element here. By reading the documentation, you know the difference. So let's see in the real code. Here, the last section, step number 5, showing this number to exclude as 1. And you see the V1, the V2, and with the V3, they are different, right? So I'm gonna compile it and oh, I forgot to print it out. So what should I do? Yeah. So in this case, you can like do the looping and print each one out. So what I'm gonna tell you is that yeah, there are different cases you should be aware. So that's the end to this presentation. Thank you for watching and keep in touch and follow me, and I'm gonna release a resourceful video in the next video. Thank you.